Jedediah.
Taylor, this is not rocket science. First of all, you lost me at cis male. You just meet a guy, just a man, right? We don't need all these terms, these nonsensical, ridiculous terms that, modern leftists have come up with. It's just a man. Children do better when there is a mom and there is a dad. And the reason is that men and women are completely different.
On Piers Morgan Uncensored, the panel erupts into a heated battleground over single motherhood, women's sexual freedom, and abortion. Piers and guests dissect Charlize Theron's unapologetic stance on single parenting and her brazen hookup with a 26-year-old, sparking explosive debate on family empowerment and society's price. Then, abortion is tackled head-on with a raw clash over tone, guilt, and rights. Let's break this down.
Bring very different things to the table, and children need the role model of a mom and a dad, not just people around. Sure, you can have aunts, you can have uncles, you can have friends, but we're talking about the two individuals that are raising children. And let me just ask you this question. Wait, I'm not done yet. You complained that Andrew interrupted you, and now you just interrupted me. I'm not done yet. Charlize Theron, you're right. She is rich. She has a ton of money. But what example do you think she's sending to young women everywhere that this is somehow empowering, that you should strive, by the way, you should strive to be the single mom because you don't have to deal with a guy. You don't have to answer to a man. Oh, isn't that so wonderful? And guess who'll pay the price? My kid, she even says, my kids can tell.
Piers calls out the selfish narrative glamorizing single motherhood, highlighting the unseen victims, the children deprived of fathers. The rhetoric of empowerment masks harsh social realities.
Their story. How unbelievably selfish of her to say, my children will one day to get to tell a story that they had no father because I decided that I just wanted to do this myself. Me, myself, and my money. Is that the message?
I wanted to go home 26-year-olds.
They're lesbian. They shouldn't be able to raise children. You need a man. What about women that raise children?
We're not talking about Taylor. No one said what should be allowed.
Moms.
I'm not talking about.
Well, tell you what I find strange. What I find strange is I know Charlize a bit when she was dating Sean Penn, and thought she was very nice, but she was always very elegant. If you interviewed her, her whole thing was high-end, elegant, all the highest-end advertising and so on. And then you see her there in this podcast, and she's like effing and blinding, talking about banging 26-year-olds. Very, very different, Ernest, to the Charlize Theron I thought I knew. I'm not saying it's good, bad, or whatever, but I do wonder if it was a male movie star sitting on a sofa, brazenly boasting about banging 26-year-olds. How old is Charlize? 50. If a 50-year-old male star was boasting about banging 26-year-old girls, right, and he was boasting about not needing a woman in his life, not needing a mother, all these kind of things, but in reverse, I don't think you'd be approving of this, Ernest.
I mean, for starters, I'm all for if it's about consent and respect. They do it all the time. A lot of older men do it all the time on media, on social media, in interviews. It's not actually an uncommon thing. I think the reason why there's a lot of actual shock and awe over Charlize Theron, because a lot of women actually her age don't feel the liberty to do that on a public facing platform. And so that's why we're talking about her. We don't talk about men who do it often on here because it's so norm. I mean, if you look at who's in politics currently right now, they were just doing it their entire career before they got to the White House. So it's not that much of a shock. There's a guy who got elected president.
Yeah, and you screamed bloody murder about it.
And got elected. And so...
And you screamed bloody murder about it. What are you talking about? Hang on. You liberals said that was the most horrible thing. He was a terrible role model. How could he? And here Charlize Theron is saying this, and you're like, she's an empowered boss babe, Andrew. Come on.
See, if I talk over him, Piers would tell me to be quiet and
you were done talking, dude. You were done talking.
Come on,
no, I wasn't done talking, actually. Can I actually talk?
You can, Ernest, yeah.
Okay, thanks. So what I was getting at is that there is a double standard. And I think, honestly, like I said before, I don't know what liberal he's talking about, but I was not a liberal that said that Trump talking about grab her by the pussy was the worst thing he ever said, because there's a lot of other things he has said that I believe is far worse and actually should cause more attention. But that being said, I just feel like the only reason why we're talking about it is because women like Charlize Theron often don't do this on a normal. So it feels abnormal, and that's why we're discussing it.
Okay, Andrew.
Why do these libs talk out of both sides of their mouth? I mean, look at it. She refused to acknowledge the outcomes for single moms, pivots immediately.
Let's be clear.
Hang on.
let's be clear.
Immediately,
No.
hang on. Immediately, yeah. Look, I'm sorry. If you have progressive talking points, if it walks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, I call it a duck. So the thing is, right? The libs on the panel very clearly, right? She evades the answer, refuses to give us the answer of if outcomes for children of single moms are worse, refuses, gives us a bunch of qualifiers proving that they are, still refuses to do it. He says, well, this is so commonplace for men. Look at the sexual deviant that we have in the White House, and says, but I'm not throwing a fit about that. I'm not throwing a fit about that, though. Yeah, they did throw a fit about it.
Ineffective discussion. This man is just over everyone. Like, he's very emotional.
It's an ineffective discussion.
Now.
I would just like you to actually answer the questions I ask you. Why can't you people ever do that?
I have a question for Ernest.
This show anymore, I guess. Go ahead.
Ernest, you said there was. Hold on a second, guys. Ernest, you said there was a double standard. What are you, in your view, where is the double standard? Because I see a double standard here, but I think we see a different double standard.
Cool. So what I was saying was the double standard reaction, right? There is a lot of reaction because of what Charlize Theron said. I'm saying that I understand where that is coming from, because we don't often see women like Charlize Theron on these platforms talking about their sexuality in this way.
But it's celebrated. Ernest, that's not true. But here's the difference. Every time, hold on a second. Every time a man says, a guy can't even say that he prefers younger women. He can't even say, well, you know what? I prefer younger women because of their fertility is better, because they're in their peak attractiveness, because I want to have a bunch of kids and it gives me more time, without getting completely trashed.
Let's be clear. Hang on. Let's be clear. If Brad Pitt came out with an interview tomorrow on Uncensored, and I hope he does. If you're watching Brad, my show is always available to you. But if he was, and he said, do you know what? Just only last week, I had the most unbelievable sex with a hot 26-year-old, right? Do you think the reaction, Ernest, would have been widespread applause for this guy? Or would it have been, you dirty old man?
This flips the script on hypocrisy and gender double standards. Success and sexuality celebrated for women are often vilified for men. The clash reveals social bias in how sexual behavior is judged.
No. I'm not saying that I feel that about Charlize Theron. I'm just saying that's the double standard, right? Leo DiCaprio gets mocked at every award show because he dates women half his age. Now it's Charlize Theron. Everyone's like, oh, this is amazing.
Piers,
a man would have been called a groomer.
I can give you an example where that backfired. So let me be very clear. So let me give you a good example of this, actually. First of all, it's if it's a pattern, right? Charlize Theron is not doing this on the regular. That's why this is a big news story. She's been mostly in long-term relationships. She does not have a habit of doing this. Leonardo DiCaprio's entire a lot of his romantic history has been this pattern, which has become a running joke. The first couple years he did it, no one cared. But it's been decades, like over
Ernest,
10 years.
That's not why it's a news story. With respect.
That's your opinion.
First of all, both of those things have been covered in the news. But the reason, what Piers is getting at, I think, I don't want to put words in his mouth, this is being celebrated. Do you understand the difference? Modern feminism has made it so that we now celebrate that Charlize Theron. And by the way, I don't give a lick, honestly. It's consensual. I don't care if she sleeps with a 26-year-old.
And by the way, there are a lot of 26-year-old men who will be absolutely thrilled that she's on the cougar market.
That's correct.
I mean, there will be.
And I don't care either. We can agree there. But I'm smart enough to acknowledge that she is being celebrated for that action, whereas a Leonardo DiCaprio, or the average guy for that matter, just saying, hey, I prefer a 22-year-old to a 32-year-old, will get destroyed in every possible
You know what? I actually have no problem with what she said about a 26-year-old. That's entirely down to her. She's a single woman. She can have sex with who the hell she likes if it's consenting an adult. I do, though, have a problem with, and Andrew was, I think, right about this. In a way, what she's saying is all your quaint ideas about you need a bloke around, you need a father, you need a husband, that's all bullshit. Look at me. I'm proof it's all great. I don't believe women when they say that. I don't believe men when they say the same thing. You know, I just think that actually the ideal is that you have a man and woman around kids and they bring them up together. And if that isn't possible and it doesn't work out, okay, you make it work. But to actually try and pretend this is actually utopia and this is the best possible thing for your kids, I don't think that's true. And I say that as a divorcee myself. I don't think this is ever actually the ideal, but you make it work as best you can. I want to switch gears to something which really did annoy me. Lily Allen, the pop star, former pop star, let's be accurate, talking about abortion.
Abortions, I've had a few,
Right.
but then again, I can't remember exactly how many.
What, really?
Yeah,
Why didn't this come up in last week's episode where we were just talking about abortions?
because I was just letting you run with it.
Reveal everything.
I can't remember. Yeah, I think maybe like, I want to say 4 or 5.
Yeah, I've heard about 5 too. Lily, I'm so happy I can say that and you can say it and no one came to shoot us down.
No judgment.
No judgment. We've had about the same amount of abortions.
You know what, Taylor? I'm not going to judge them in the way they think I'm going to judge them. I'm not going to judge them for having abortions. I believe in a woman's right to choose what she does with her body. I know, and we'll come to Andrew's position on that. I think we know what it is, and I'll get your view. But the point is, Taylor, I'm not against abortion. I am against women that talk about it so glibly. I am against 2 women sitting there just brazenly talking in a very kind of slightly boastful way. We've had 10 abortions between us, and Lily Allen can't even remember how many abortions she's had. I don't like that aspect to what was going on there. I think it's distasteful. I think it trivializes abortion. Abortion, you know, whether you agree with it or not, you should always treat it, I think, as a serious thing, which should be taken seriously and dealt with seriously. That, to me, was trivializing it. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I think that, I hear you, Piers, and I take your point. I think that most women have a struggle with access to abortion, especially now here in America. And I think that normalizing the idea of having abortion is overwhelmingly a good thing.
Well, we shouldn't normalize the idea of having 5 abortions with 2 women there basically making out, oh, thank God we can talk about this now. Like this is normal. That's not normal to have 5 abortions.
It should be normal to have easy access to abortion. It should be.
I don't dispute that, but that's a political matter. That's a social matter for the women. But it's the way you talk about it, I think, is actually, for example, in America, where it's a really hot potato issue, I can imagine everyone, I'll come to Andrew for what I think will be his response. I can imagine it. He'll be very angry because he doesn't agree with abortion to start with. To then see women, high-profile women like this, famous women, just talking about it in such a glib manner.
Because they want to restrict women's rights and they want to restrict women's access to healthcare. This is essential. Abortion is essential healthcare. And I understand what you're saying, but it is healthcare, yes. And it's really important.
Ridiculous.
Too. It's not ridiculous. It saves women's lives in many cases to have an abortion. And it's really hard for women to get access. And they feel a lot of shame around it because of the social stigma.
Does it sound, Taylor, does it sound to you like those women feel a lot of shame around abortion? Is that what it sounds like?
The point is that many women are taught, and it sounds like you guys on this very panel want women to feel shame about it. And in fact, they should not.
I mean, you shouldn't be. Should you be proud of it? Is the point. I mean, let me bring Andrew in here. I mean, Andrew, I know your position on abortion, but notwithstanding that, it doesn't really concern me really whether people are for or against it. It's the way they're talking about it, I find. So let's leave the argument about whether they.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah,
but it's totally self-centered and selfish. And look, she says, "I'm not a lib. Women need to have more abortions." The thing is, I have more access to abortions. She lies through her teeth. It's a healthcare procedure. Most women's lives, when they have abortions, has nothing to do with the life of them at all, their physical health at all. Total lies from the left. On top of that, let's just point out that what they're really doing there is they're sitting there going, I just like totally murdered 5 of my kids. And the other one's like, yeah, me too. Isn't that great, sweetheart? And the other one's like, yeah, totally. That's it's so awesome that we can just kill our children. Isn't that great? And so we normal people, we normal people hear. So anyway, we normal people hear this, like regular Joes, and of course we're disgusted by it. The fact of the matter is it just shows a complete and total lack of caring for humanity, lack of caring for children.
A scathing indictment of how abortion is trivialized by some high-profile women and its moral implications. The debate shifts from access to the cultural impact of tone and normalization.
This is supposed to be the more empathetic sex, and yet when they have power over vulnerable life, they kill it? Really? You're going to convince me that's the more empathetic, more vulnerable sex? Give me a break.
I just have one little
Ernest.
Yeah, I think for me, it's just two things, right? I think that some people will feel like the way in which she went about discussing was tasteless. I think
Did
that
you?
for people listening to it, I did. I think that there's a better, in my personal taste, right? I think there could have been a better way she could have said it, but that's just my personal preference. And I think that's just how she is with a lot of things. Lily Allen, I don't agree with a lot of things that Lily Allen says or how she says it personally. And I think that's the real thing here. However, what I think is important is that everybody's getting abortions. This whole libs, far left, far right stuff. I really get annoyed with that because it's almost as if you're acting like only one, like everybody makes decisions based on their political ideologies, and that's just so immature. And
Well,
this
listen,
obsession,
we can look at
like,
the
oh, the
reproductive.
libs, the libs.
Yeah, we can look at the reproductive
everybody's
stats,
having
and we know
abortions, for starters.
which political
Everybody's
party is
having
advocating
abortion.
for abortion and which
You
one
can
isn't.
keep-
We know
you
which
can keep
political party's
talking
advocating
like
for it,
a
which one's not.
extremist. I don't come with that. Like, I'm just saying, it's not for me, this is not a libs thing or whatever. It's really just a matter of taste. And that's what
But
I
how
want to
could
be
it
clear.
not be?
Like,
how could it not be
there
a
are people
liberal?
that-
That's completely politically charged.
All right, let Jedediah speak. Jedediah.
How could it not be? If liberals are the ones, I mean, just be honest, liberals are the ones that are promoting a pro-abortion culture.
This explosive segment pulls back the curtain on deeply polarizing topics: single motherhood, sexual liberation, abortion culture, and lays bare the raw emotions and contradictions behind them. From the real-life cost for children to glaring gender hypocrisies and the societal framing of abortion, viewers are challenged to confront uncomfortable truths beyond slogans. Drop your take below. Do the narratives empower or erode society? What's the real cost of freedom and choice?